Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Dianhuan Lin. Dianhuan is the lead principal data scientist at Zscaler. Dianhuan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here.
It's our pleasure. So, Dianhuan, let's start with yourself. Could you give a brief background of your journey in technology, specifically your path as a data scientist, where you started out and what's led you to your current position as the principal data scientist for Zscaler?
My journey with machine learning or AI actually started when I was undergraduate. I was taking the course on digital image processing. That's where I came across the concept of machine learning. And I was really intrigued by the concept. So I jumped into the lecture on machine learning, which is provided to graduate students, but the professor can't allow me to sit in the class. So that's where I started to learn more about machine learning and AI. And I think the reason I was found it really interesting was it also collided with my passion in terms of human learning. So I found my learning is quite efficient in the sense I don't need a lot of exercise to understand concept. 1 or 2 is sufficient. When I see more exercise or questions or exam question, I can generalize easier. So at that point, I thought, oh, what if I brought my efficient human learning skills to machine learning? That would be great. I will build a super efficient machine learning algorithms. That's where I gave no second thought when I chose the PhD subject. So I thought I wanted to dive deeper and doing research on machine learning to achieve what I was really interested. And then that was the starting point when I chose machine learning. And now looking back, it seemed all natural, where this is a very popular subject. But back to 2008, it wasn't that case, at least back in China. A few years later, my parents actually told me that I told them that I want to choose this subject. They actually asked my sister, saying, your sister chose this artificial intelligence and machine learning. Do you think she can find a job after she graduated? Yeah, but what I was really grateful is my parents, even though they have a little bit doubt, they didn't tell me. They expressed the concern. They tried to find other information to double check their worry, but they gave me the freedom to choose what I was really passionate about. And I think that from that angle, I was really lucky that I have the unconditional love from my parents who gave me the freedom to follow my passion.
And it certainly benefited because the industry wasn't as well known as it is now. Everyone who's listening, I'm sure, is well aware that the space we're in is the single most in-demand profession currently available. So I'm sure your parents are happy with how things played out. So yeah. Staying on this conversation then of, listen, you followed your gut, you followed your interest and your passion, and it's now led you to where you are now. You also had the opportunity to work at some amazing companies along the way, one of which being Amazon. So it'd be good to learn about your journey to what led you to where you're at now with Zscaler.
Yeah, after my graduation, I was lucky I got a job at Amazon Alexa. So that was, for me, that was very exciting opportunity. The team I joined was in Cambridge. In particular, they handle all the question answering part for Alexa. For example, when you're asked who was the president when Barack Obama was a teenager. So this type of question that require parsing of the sentence, semantic parsing, not just a few keywords that you wouldn't be able to find exactly the right answer. And the team in Cambridge, actually, they were previously a startup called Evie, and they acquired by Amazon for their this knowledge-based question answering. So for there, That's also again aligned with my interest on how human beings learning and reasoning, where it wasn't just a keywords based. We really understand the concept and then do the semantic parsing. So it was knowledge based. So that aligned with my interest and also expand my toolbox in machine learning. Originally, my research was focused on machine learning, where I didn't have much application to natural language understanding. And at my job at Amazon Alexa, I learned a lot on the natural language processing or natural language understanding part. That was really exciting. I'm still a big fan of Alexa, and I think the team is doing pretty well, and also especially bring impact, make users' life easier. So that's why I'm always my drive in my career. Whenever I can to choose the opportunity, I really hope that the work I do has impact in people's life. And that's made me really proud. So that was my first step on along that journey towards making impact using technology.
And then just to focus on your current position now, for anyone not familiar, could you tell us about Zscaler, who you are as a business, the industry that you're operating in, and what the product is doing?
To mention Zscaler, I would definitely like to mention the concept SaaS first, software as a service. Now this is a big trend with Netflix and Salesforce being one of the first few SaaS companies. Zscaler is also a SaaS company. And there's a trend on the SaaS where you see the market cap for all the SaaS company is in nearly exponential growth right now. So then the next question will be, what service does Zscaler offer? Software as a service, what does it offer? So Zscaler helps companies to do business transformation. How it achieve this is it protect your business and help you with the digital transformation. And to be concrete, in particular, two areas where Zscaler is helping right now. One is the network transformation, especially with work from home. People's traffic originally was in office, now has to go from home to office, especially if you have some sensitive information there, and then back to you. Imagine if you far away from the office, then the traffic time and then the time is going to be delayed. The user experience wouldn't be good. You don't like when you added a document, you wait a few seconds to come back. So that wouldn't be a good user experience. So Zscaler replace the traditional VPN and also make your access to the cloud, for example, Microsoft Document or Google Document, faster and also protect it. So make sure that you don't get malware downloaded to your laptop. So protect your business and make it faster. So in general, make your business better, more effective.
Excellent. So it's a fascinating space as the interaction that people have with cloud is changing. The security that supports it needs to change with it. So focusing now, Dianhuan, on your role as the principal data scientist, can you give us some insight into what it's like to be part of the data science group at Zscaler, some of the projects that you're working on, the makeup of the team, and everything that happens behind the scenes to get Zscaler's security products out to market?
Yeah, the machine learning team at Zscaler is actually working on some very exciting projects. The reason I say it's super exciting is it make big business impact and user impact. So the number one is on the security side. As we talk about that, if we have a malware that reaching your laptop, it will be, especially if it's a ransomware which lock down your laptop and lock all the data, it's going to be disaster. But when you download the malware and scan the malware, well, it takes time. Traditionally, people will actually have to wait for 10 minutes and wait the scanning to finish, and then you say, okay, now you can have the access to the file. And then imagine that if you happen to download quite a few files, it's not a good user experience. And where machine learning comes to help is the concept smart quarantine. And by the way, so when the file is in the sandbox to scan whether it's malware or not, it was typically called quarantine. And the smart quarantine is we use machine learning to decide whether the file is actually benign or malicious, so that if it's machine learning think it's likely to be benign, so then the customer can have the file earlier. And so that really make the user experience way better. So the adoption or the sandbox is become more easily accessible now compared to before, where before people have hesitation that, oh, I don't want to wait for 10 minutes. And then you have to make a trade-off between security and the user experience. And with machine learning, you have easier decision to make. Of course, I want both, good user experience and the security, less malware arriving my laptop or the servers. So that's one example of the application. And other example would also include one of the recent blog release was about AI ops. So this is to help the ops for the data center to identify the issue earlier and respond it faster. So as name tells, that it's kind of AI assist ops. Traditionally, people build a certain monitoring on the different dashboard to monitor whether the data center is functioning correctly. But you can imagine each monitoring or each sensor itself is noisy. So when certain monitors say, oh, this anomaly, it's not always the case. So, and as human beings, we connect the dots from various information, then we draw the conclusion. But if we do it manually, it's quite time consuming. And also if we want to respond 24 hours and 7 days, there's a hurdle there. And with the help of AI, we can really speed up and then make human beings' life easier. It's in particular where we can use AI to give a root cause assignment to see where the problem is, so to help human beings identify the problems faster. So that's the second example. Actually, we have quite a few variety of the projects. So there's also a URL characterization to which touch on the natural language understanding. So that's because that project is needed because company needs to apply the access control on different type of the website to protect their users. For example, there's a gambling type of the site. Sometimes companies doesn't want their employees to have access those sites. So we need to recognize whether a website is gambling or not. And if it is, certain policy will say, let's block it. So that's where natural language understanding comes in to help. Again, you see, it's quite different type of the application. And that's another part which makes the job at a Zscaler as a machine learning scientist or data scientist super exciting is there's a variety of the problems. And the problems sometimes is undefined. And there's a freedom and challenge at the same time to find out what's the best problem to solve using machine learning. Because machine learning is a hammer. We couldn't say every problem is a nail and then hammer that. There's always opportunity cost, because if you focus on a particular nail, you might you might lose the opportunity for the other bigger opportunity. So we have to actually not just focus on technology, but also building this business sense and also being customer obsession to see which project using machine learning would make the biggest user impact. And to me, that's also very challenging, but at the same time, very fulfilling when we do make it to use the machine learning to solve the right problem and help the customers.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
I want to get your take now on the growth that you've seen from your time there, and as you look ahead, particularly for the data science and machine learning group, what are you most excited about? So could you speak to what the rest of 2021 and 2022 will look like from a headcount and data science team perspective?
So Zscaler in general for different roles are growing faster, and the machine learning team is hiring too. So we actually have more headcounts than the people who meet our bar. Yeah, so we definitely welcome data scientists and data engineers to apply to our team. And another thing I want to highlight in terms of the joy at working at Zscaler is the amount of data we have. Like John mentioned just now, like the number of customers Zscaler have, and then especially those big companies, that give us 150 billion transactions per day. And what does that mean? So Google search has about 6 billion transactions per day. And that means Zscaler transaction per day is almost 30 times of Google searches. That amount of scale, you can imagine that it's really provide you a great data source for you to challenge because of data scale. And also the insight you can draw out of this data is enormous. So there's a lot of potential. And as I mentioned before, a lot of the problems is undefined. Now you have the gold mine. It's your choice to decide which route you wanted to find the gold. And it's relatively undermined right now. So it's going to be very fruitful and productive journey, and also very fun journey.
Sounds very exciting, particularly given the growth you guys have had and the customer base that you're working with. Final question from me then, Dianhuan, is specifically to benefit machine learning engineers, and because it's an incredibly technical role and often people will struggle with the technical aspects of the interview. So as somebody who has secured these roles yourself and now leading a team and being heavily involved in the interviewing of candidates at machine learning, what advice or insight could you offer to help candidates conduct better interviews and present themselves better when interviewing for machine learning roles?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I have been the other side of the table, meaning I've been interviewees before, and also I've been interviewers now. Being both sides of the table, I found that if a candidate want to stand out, the number one is understand the algorithms or approach inside out. Then the audience might wonder, okay, how do I know whether I understand inside out? I thought I understood well already, but when I go to the interview, I got stuck. So one tip I have is if I summarize into 3W, meaning like you ask yourself the question, when to use what and why. And so that's expanded a little bit, meaning that the machine learning has many different approaches and many different algorithms. They apply for different scenarios, meaning that there are certain scenarios, certain algorithms shoot better than others, or similar problems, but there's a different variety of alternatives, and they are all designed for different cases. And if we know what's the pros and cons for different approach and really know the inside out, then we know, okay, when I encounter this scenario, that's when I should apply. And then why part is challenge yourself, asking why not the other? So in that way, play devil's advocate. Then you might go, oh yeah, why not the other? So what's the difference on the other? So being the devil's advocate is like the interviewers. Try to find the corner cases or the blind spot in your understanding. Once you are able to confidently say, yeah, this is scenario, why this particular algorithm is needed, and why not the others. And that's where I think you understand the algorithms better than before. And the project also help you to really dive deeper into the algorithms, especially when you try something. What we talk about when to use what and why, that's a little bit theoretical. And when you apply it in practice, when you see the problem surface, and then you go back to debug and actually rethink some of the understanding. And that really helps you to dive deeper and think about the problem and the approach and the algorithm from different angles.
Dianhuan, thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you again for coming on and talking to us today. Zscaler, fascinating business, clearly huge demand for what you guys are doing and consistent growth across the business. It sounds like a very exciting place for anyone who's interested in data and solving challenging problems. We appreciate you sharing your insight on the market or for machine learning engineers and how to nail the interview. So thank you again for coming on today.
Thank you, John. It's great talking to you, and have a good day.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.